Alright, so this will be me basically regurgitating what I said back at the D&D club. I think I want to say, what's today? It was on Monday. No, it was Tuesday. Yeah, so I went over to my club to see how everyone was doing, wanted to check up on them, and then I had a chance to start talking to them about how to be a dungeon master. We had the time, and I was really excited to see how big the club has gotten, and also that was something that I wanted to start with at every club meeting, like how to be a dungeon master, how to be a player. But I figured it would be a lot more interesting if I gave a sort of quote unquote lecture about how to create a world versus just how to be a DM. Because personally, I feel like the one important thing about being a dungeon master above most other things is that you need to have a world set up for your players before they can even go about doing whatever they want to do. Because what's the point of knowing how to be a dungeon master if you have nothing to give to the players that you're going to be running a game for? So I took the time and said, hey, let me teach you how I create a world for Dungeons and Dragons. So hopefully this will be a help to everyone else. And if not, I can just send this to those people and they can just enjoy it officially. So, where we started off, right? I feel like I should start off by saying that when I say you need to create a world, I'm not saying that you need to literally create an entire world's worth of content before you go out and present it to the players. The main reason I feel like you shouldn't do it like that involves both time and just expectations. The fact that you will be disappointed. The time part is sort of hit or miss. You can take it or leave it, right? If you really want to go deep dive into the whole mechanics of the world, from the North Pole to the Southern Pole, all around the equator, then by all means, that's what you want to do. I'm not here to stop you. However, I do fully believe that it will lead to a form of disappointment if you go down that route. Because you will find that when you start your campaign and you have all your players ready to go for this whole world you spent so long creating, only to find that they are barely scratching the surface of everything you've created. And even if you don't blame your players, even though you don't blame yourself, you will find there is a tinge of disappointment knowing that there's this cool thing off in the far distance you really want your players to see and experience, and yet not so much that they can't, but it will take a long time before they will. Or, worst case scenario, they will never find any interest in it and then will just never touch it ever. And then miraculously the game ends somehow. So, my method that I'm about to present to you is not a method of showing you how to create an entire world, but to create sort of bullet points that will all end with me explaining how it will help you improvise in the moment. Now, where we start with this whole world building minimalistic plan is an idea. You In order to build your world, it has to come from a central idea that you can expand later down the line into this massive world, but it has to start off with a core idea, right? So because I felt like it would be a lot more interesting and entertaining to do class participation, I basically had the club members throw some ideas at me. Not only that, I felt like by them throwing their own ideas onto me, it would prove my point by if you give me your random ideas that you may think don't fit together, then I promise you by the end of this, it will all make sense. So the three ideas that they came up with was an archipelago, dragon turtles, and sinking ships. The first thing that they came up with was the archipelagos. And I wanted to take the moment in time to explain to them like why just saying an archipelago isn't good enough. Not to say that's where they were stopping, but I just wanted to explain like why do you not just want your central idea to just be one bullet point? And the problem with just having one bullet point worth of an idea is because that's not interesting, or at the very least, one single point is not interesting at all. The goal for you as a DM is to like make a world for your players, but that world also has to be interesting. There has to be something, anything, to drag them into the idea that you have created for them. Um, and the idea is the center point of that hook, line, and sinker. But just saying it's this one idea is really not good enough. Like, take for example, you say that you're running a pirate campaign. Most people will jump on that idea instantaneously without any questions. Pirates? Sure, why not? I've read slash watched One Piece. I'll definitely play in a pirate setting. But just saying that it's pirates doesn't really tell the player anything. By that point, they've created something so crazy and off the books of what you imagined this story was going to go that it retroactively kind of ruins the whole campaign setting. It doesn't ruin the game by osmosis, but it does kind of remove the vision you had. Because even though the players should be having fun, you also should be having fun as well. And if the original idea starts getting thrown out the window because the players just didn't get the memo of what they were getting into, that's that can be kind of disheartening for some people. So, like I said, there needs to be more meat on the bones, as it were, if you want to give your players something to really latch onto. So, again, like we said, we started throwing more ideas. We got Archipelago, Dragon Turtles, and Sinking Ships. These three things, in my opinion, are good enough. You can get more, you can add less, but always more than one. And there's no like criterias of how many things you need, but also try not to overbloat it. The whole point is to be minimalistic. The point is to have like a basic idea that can be understood and latched onto. You don't fish with a giant block of meat to catch a catfish in a pond. That doesn't work. I promise. I promise that doesn't work. The next part that we're going to do is that we need to flesh out these three ideas. As great as they may seem by themselves, they really mean nothing to us at the moment. So we started with archipelagos. And so we need to answer some questions. What are these questions? Well, that's not really the problem. I don't really believe that it should be this static who, what, when, where, and why involving these particular set of ideas, considering there's nothing grounded in them to begin with. We have no idea what these archipelagos are, if they have any connection to the dragon turtles and or connection to the sinking ships. I mean, technically they would have to, but what are they? We don't know. So the questions that you should be asking aren't really static in a list, but rather just things that just slide off your mind. Like, what about the archipelagos? What makes these random sort of islands interesting? Why would anyone just go out there, risk their lives, and go out for a true adventure for the ages for these random assortment of islands? The first thing that came up almost immediately was the archipelagos, the islands, are the dragon turtles. And eventually I asked them like how many of them, and I got the number 13. Now, because they are dragon turtles, by extension, they move. So then that leads to a whole cavalcade of like immediately now we got some interest. Like, what about these islands? Well, they're dragon turtles. And because of that, people know that they just move around. I started asking for some more ideas involving just what else you got. And then one person threw out there are some special monsters there. What are those monsters? Well, I'll get to that in a minute. And then there's special ore. This last thing, the special ores part, is actually pretty interesting because we know as dungeon masters that they aren't just rocks. They're actually a part of the dragon turtles. And because they're part of a dragon turtle, part of a dragon, they come people come back with these ores and they're like, "Hey, we got these things that are practically as hard as dragon scales or something along those lines." And it's like, "Oh, cool. We should get more of those." Right? And we'll use that last one as sort of an example for what's coming next. But you see how all this kind of blends together? Not yet? Okay, we'll get there, I promise. So I basically stopped them right there because you really do, like I said, you don't need to go too far with this stuff. But I did want to take the time to explain something else. Rumors, secrets, and dungeon master knowledge, right? There are going to be some things that the players should know versus what the players may not really need to know, right? And the reason we have these secrets is because that, well, you need to give the players something to look forward to. Some mystery, something that would boggle their minds if they figured it out. Just something that makes the whole thing mysterious. I mean, the idea alone that these islands move would be enough to pique anyone's interest, but they don't need to know why they're moving. And then, of course, if the dragon turtles are the reasons why the ships are sinking, then it would kind of ruin the mystery, quote unquote, if the players already knew why the ships are sinking. It's because the islands are dragon turtles. Well, like I said, I put down the idea that, the dragon turtles being the islands themselves as a complete secret. No one in the world technically knows about this. Maybe there's like one, two, maybe a couple of NPCs that actually know this, but it's not like anywhere near common knowledge. The players would go in and just know that the islands are moving, but the true uh, identity of these islands would not be known to anyone. The island's moving, you really can't hide that. The special ores, that's the other reason why these islands are special. Of course, people are going to come back with these ores. People are going to know about these ores. That's not a secret. The special monster things, that could be a rumor. I think it should be a rumor. Because you would have to imagine there are monsters there. You would go there and people would come back and be like, "Yeah, we got these ores, but there are these monsters that kind of threaten us with our lives and we kind of had to get out of there." Now, why would this be a rumor versus a sort of public knowledge that everyone knows this? Well, technically speaking, it really doesn't have to be. But the reason why I decided to explain that it has to be sort of a rumor rather than a secret, because people would know about it. But the reason why it would be a rumor is because of one thing and maybe a couple of other things. One primarily thing, the meta answer, is that we just wrote down that they're special monsters. What are they? Who knows? Could be a Swahagan. Could be mermaids with legs. Could be entire indigenous people that have made one with the dragon turtles or something. I mean, they could be anything. And because of that, that's why they make good rumors. Because at one scene, you can have a character say that they are Swahagans or fish people. The next scene, you can say they are mermaid people who walk on land, granting wishes and all that. And then you could say something else entirely crazy. And it would still make sense in the context of the world because it's a rumor. People don't actually know. The people that actually do manage to come back, whose ships don't sink, and manage to find the turtles, and see these monsters, will come back, tell one person. But considering not so many people actually know about this, that have actually seen these monsters, the information will pass on, but the actual knowledge of what they are will get mixed up in the whole passing of the telephone thing. And even if you do run into a chance where it's like, oh, these are Swahagans, well, you can put that down later, and that one guy who actually got it right can still be right. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's still a rumor. The players aren't going to know. They're never going to know until they actually see it. And this leads into the point of like the players don't have your notes. They're never going to know what you wrote down if you wrote down anything at all. And even if you tell them, well, good, but like you don't even have to tell them. They at this point should trust you enough to at least say that you have what you know. And if you don't know something, well, you'll either tell them or you won't. But as far as they know, you've got everything you need. So it's all good, right? And by the time the players would run into these monsters, however that may come about, you might have all the time to figure out who they are and what they mean to the island, all that history and whatnot, but that's not really needed at the moment. You just have a rumor, an idea planted into the player's mind, and whatever truth they come across is a truth they'll find. All right, so that was the archipelago. Let's talk about the dragon turtles and the sinking ships. I put those two together because I feel like they kind of connect a little too closely to one another. Like the dragon turtles are the reason the ships are sinking. You can't really talk about one and not talk about the other in this particular instance. So, the ideas that were thrown at me were the ships taste great, mining hurts. I came up with that one because that just made sense in my head. One or more dragon turtles are actually eating the ships. And then defense. Now, the ships taste great. The idea that was running around was that um, they're eating the ships because there is some kind of nutritional value to it. Whether that's because of the gunpowder on some of the ships, maybe it's because of the spices that some ships will have. Whatever the case may be, they are eating the ships because it just tastes good. And then also, some of the turtles are just munching on a shift because they're getting mined for their back ore. Apparently, I didn't know this until they brought it up, but apparently, some turtles' shells are actually a part of their spine. So, yeah, they're gonna feel that in some way, shape, or form. And in retaliation, they bite down on some ships. So yeah, they taste good and mining carts. Now the whole one or more of the dragon turtles are actually eating the ships. This was sort of something I think I came up with where it sort of did an explanation where you wouldn't want all the dragon turtles to be eating the ships. I mean, there's 13 of these guys. That would make it highly hazardous to even go near these islands. You don't want people to be completely deterred from potentially going to these places. So if it's just one, two that are actually eating the ships just out of necessity versus like retaliation, then that makes it a little more interesting. It makes it a chance to maybe sink, but not a guaranteed. It's a lot more reasonable for people to risk their lives and at least try. Now, the defense. Someone brought up this as just straight defense and then retaliated and kind of ridiculed himself by saying, nah, it's too generic. Listen, guys, nothing you've created is original. I know, it hurts. But it's true. But that doesn't make it bad. It far from makes it bad. You just gotta make it your own in the setting that it is. That's why when I heard it the first time, I was like, yeah, this doesn't quite seem finished, if nothing else. What are they defending? Why would they defend it? Right? And then some of the players, some of the club members brought up like, hey, maybe they're defending a treasure, or maybe they're carrying a ship. Those two ideas are great. At this stage, there's really no real bad idea. You really can't come up with a truly bad idea. The only reason I technically shot both of those ideas down as like that may not work the way you think is only because in order for it to make sense, you would have to further explain it. Now you might be asking me, hey, Rekirts, Jalen, DM, you said that, there are some things that you can just leave in the ether. There is no explanation to it. You can figure it out later. Yes, I did say that. But that was more talking about things that didn't directly affect anything. You see, the whole defense thing, that's something that is an active participation on the account of sentient creatures. If you told me that a temple was defending something, then I wouldn't bring it up anymore. Because a temple doesn't really have any control of what it's defending. And by that same extent, it doesn't really care what it's defending. It could be defending literally anything from the body of a dead god to an item that could literally wipe the planet to extinction of all life. It could be anything, but it doesn't really matter because it's just it's was designed to defend the thing regardless of what the thing is. But considering that these dragon turtles are sentient, they are alive, they think and they do things in order to survive among other things, it wouldn't make sense for them to just create, excuse me, it wouldn't make sense for them to defend something if there was no reason to defend it. Now obviously, between the ships and the magic item or whatever the case they said, you can easily make a reason for it. But that would require you to take extra steps, create extra lore, and while that is not entirely bad, I had a different idea that was more snappy, came to the conclusion, and actually, in retrospect, answered a few more questions that you may not have thought of, that I didn't even think of in the moment. What they're defending is a young turtle dragon. Why does this work so well? Well, it immediately brings up in my head that if they're defending this turtle dragon to such a degree where they need like 13 or 12, depending on how you want to disperse those numbers, if you got all of these dragon turtles defending this one, that means that this dragon turtle baby is very, very important. That this little thing needs to stay alive. Maybe it's because the dragon turtles know on some conscious level that they are one of the few, if not the last of their kind. And this young child, this little creature, is the next generation. And if they die, that's it. Even if dragon turtles live for a long time, they are not forever. They are still finite. They know that. This is their ability, their chance to move on to the next generation. But if this young one dies, this youngin, as we put it, dies, it's over forever. It also kind of leads into some other questions that may be brought up, like why do they stay so close to a mainland where there are humanoid creatures harvesting their back tissue for like materials? Is because maybe the area that they're in, that they're circling around, has like it's just great for like nurturing a young baby, you know, like these things just help make a lot more sense in the grand scheme of things and just clicks a lot easier. Though, granted, like I said before, in this stage, there's really no bad ideas. You just have to realize that some things will work a lot easier than others, but you can always make something work. Don't take my word as gospel, just take it and just use it if you so please. And that was it. That was the idea. Now, obviously, we can add more stuff, make more things make more sense, and just fill out the this empty vessel or this glass of ice with some kind of drink. But you really don't have to go any further than this. These bullet points will set you up for a good long while. They are the focus, they are the main course, they are the hook that's going to bring you in. And don't worry, we're getting to everything else later. Okay. So, fact of the matter is, I have literally finished editing half of all of this, and there's still more to go. So, to put it bluntly, yeah, there's this is a long video to edit, and I didn't want to keep editing and not be able to post this in a timely manner. Also, I'm not quite sure yet how well long videos will do. And yeah, uh, yeah, man, this editing is a lot of work. But hey, I'll get it done, get the video out. The next part is coming. Just sit right there. We'll be back in a minute.